Jean Jack. There she is. I see her. Okay, so just real quickly, so last week we hosted a wedding here, and we're all right, maybe me, I was still really giddy about it because it was like kind of perfect, and it was like two of my favorite people in the world, so that might have had something to do with it. But the combination of the artwork on view set the perfect stage for joy and love and beauty, and while all of our artists play a role in that, the four featured artists actually were kind of perfect. The guests were seated here in this section, and while Jen, the bride, waited with her dad in the other room, I was like, she was doing some deep breathing. So I said, look at Greg's work. She just turned her body and was just staring at Greg's work, breathing in, breathing out. She goes, I'm just gonna follow the lines. And so it was so interesting, is that invitation with Greg's work to follow those lines. The families are Mainers and raised in the value of hard work and the importance of family and giving back to their community. Who better than Anne Trainer Domingue? And both families had grown up in rural Maine. What better reminder of the New England landscape, rural landscape, than Jean Jack? And then there is the joy and brightness of Carlos's work. I can attest that every woman here wanted to take their photograph in front of one of those portraits. They're like, oh, and my model. Anyway, so how does that all relate to art? Well, art relates to everything, every facet of the human condition. And on that day and on today, beauty, love, connection, hope, it's all here. So thank you for being here to celebrate that. So now let's hear from our artists. Let's start with Greg. I keep losing Greg, there he is. Greg, Greg, born in Brunswick, grew up in Brooks, Maine. From an early age, was fascinated with space, light, and urban landscape, and became determined to study architecture. There's a few architects in this crowd. It was during his time in college that Greg discovered his passion for painting, and now he is a devoted and active artist and considers himself a builder of paintings, which he can explain better than me. Greg's works are invitations to look more deeply, and I encourage you to spend lots of time with them. Please welcome artist Greg Day.
Thank you, Emma, and thanks everyone for coming out tonight. After the artist's remarks, I'm going to go hang out near my paintings, which are in the other room, near the food. So come say hi, and I can answer any questions about my work. And please appreciate and enjoy the work that's in this room and the amazing artists that have created it. Thank you, and have fun.
Thanks. Thank you, Greg. And now I'd like to introduce artist Anne Trainer Domingue. She grew up in the Oceanside community of Barrington, Rhode Island. There's probably little doubt that there's a relationship with the coast and devotion to family that has informed her creative process. Anne's paintings are unmistakable. People recognize them immediately, offering her own distinctive depiction of family and working life in New England, on the New England waterfront. And in this show, and particularly the Portland waterfront. Anne seems to allow the process to lead her in her work as opposed to the other way around, which I think that has something to do with the diptych that's behind us. So most notably is the stunning diptych that is part of her show right behind this wall. So please welcome artist Anne Trainer Domingue.
Once again, thank you everyone for coming tonight. This is really exciting to see so many faces and stuff here. I just want to thank Portland Art Gallery for hanging my show in a really interesting way. It's always interesting to just have them all stacked up in the studio and then come here. It's like, oh, that looks good with that looks okay. You know, I have a lot of wall space now that I have a new, larger studio space, but still, nonetheless, there's just never enough space to see it all happen all in one eyeful, so I really appreciate everything that these guys do here. And exhibiting everything the way they do is just stunning, like Carlos's work and Jean's and mine. And, it's just a wonderful way of juxtaposing different kinds of artists and gives everybody a chance to really understand where everybody's coming from as an artist. So my work this year, normally what I do is I try to find a word that I can hang a lot of my thinking on, because I am an overthinker, and and I work a lot in sketchbooks, so I plan, I think, I make notes and that kind of thing, and then in the end I finally make a decision. So the word this year was refreshed. So you'll see a lot of images if you go back, even on your inventory here, of things that have been sold at the gallery that has elements of things that are still familiar, the fishermen and stuff. What's new is that I haven't done any semi-realistic pieces like this diptych behind Kevin of the Portland Custom House Pier there, and it's just some iconic view of Portland, but I just thought I've been there enough that I really just wanted to dig in and do my expressive line work and play with the seagull chaos that happens over there. And you know, they can't wait for that guy to step out the back door of the Custom House or of the fish market, because they know it's like, yes, boats are coming in. But in this case, it was low tide, so there wasn't all that much activity happening on this particular day, but it's always different, and I really appreciate that. A lot of the other pieces are, they're still refreshed, they're just handled in a bit of a different way. I use a couple of different kinds of acrylic medium. There's a large diptych that is 60 by 80 behind this wall, on the very back wall. That was, again, it's a departure starting in a more abstract way. Nothing about it was in my sketchbook, so that was like super risky for me. And what turned out was something like a map that has all different directions, and there's little dots that indicate a path that somebody might have taken over here, and then they wandered right outside the painting, and then it started back up again. And there are words in that painting that just suggest a journey, and how all of us have our own individual journey, and stop and start, and sometimes just keep on going with no place in mind. So anyway, that's it. I'd love to chat with anybody if you want to know a little bit more about any particular work. And again, thanks for coming tonight.
All right, and all the way from Louisville, Kentucky, we are thrilled to have Carlos with us tonight. Where are you, Carlos? I know you're making your way. Carlos is delighted his clients and viewers throughout the U.S. and Cuba and around the world. What resonates is his determination, his strong belief in the beauty within, and that art helps us to communicate and care for each other. As we speak, there is a segment running on WGME where Carlos was interviewed by them today. You can find an online link to that interview after 7:30 this evening, and you know that we'll be posting it also. But we have the pleasure of having Carlos here in person, so please welcome artist Carlos Gomez de Francisco.
Thank you all for coming tonight. It is always a pleasure to be back here in Portland. I want to share with you a couple of stories about my childhood, and I always like to talk about it because it's a good way to encourage some generations or people that they don't believe they could create art. So the first time that I remember I was drawing was when I was 5 years old, and I still keep that drawing with me. And I was on the kitchen table drawing with a blue ink pen, and my dad was washing the dishes. And I asked him how the water comes from the faucet, and he explained that water comes from the lake, is purified, and it arrives to every house. So I draw the same that my dad told me, and he left the room. My mom came, and she asked me what I was doing. So I explained the same that my dad told me, but she thought I was crazy, because imagine a 5-year-old kid explaining that process and trying to make a drawing about it. Next day, she took me to see a psychologist. And after 30 minutes, the psychologist said, "Your son is normal, you're the one that needs therapy." So that was the first time that I remember about me drawing. The second time was when I was 15 years old. I studied to become a dancer, and that is where I learned the discipline. And when I was 15, I switched career. One day I was painting early in the morning, and when I looked through the window, it was already night. And that's when I said I could do this for the rest of my life. And at the time, I didn't have the resources that I have now. I didn't have any art supplies. An oil tube in Cuba cost like maybe half of the salary. So it's impossible for someone, especially a teenager, to be able to buy these art supplies. So I was very creative, and I was using watercolor for kids, and I mixed it with toothpaste. When I was able to find 3 colors with oil, I didn't know that I need a medium, so I mix it with diesel. Don't do this at home. Then one day someone told me that I could buy linseed oil from the port, and I could because they use it to clean the boats. So I went there then and I bought a bottle, but I didn't know that I have to mix it with the medium. So my first painting took about 3 years to dry, and that's how I learned. So when people tell me that they don't have the resources, I just want them to believe more in themselves. And I remember also that I didn't have a canvas, so I used to steal my mom's blankets, and then I use a medium, and then I paint on them. So one day we have a guest at home, and my mom says, "Where are the blankets?" And I said, "Look, on the walls." So yes, I hope, so if someone here is one day interested in painting, just do it. Don't overthink it. And well, I hope you enjoy the show, and thank you all for coming.
Thank you, Carlos. All right. The Queen, the Queen, Jean Jack. It's been a few years since we've had a show of Jean's work here at the Portland Art Gallery, and so we are truly very, very excited about this year. As usual, she's created beautiful contemporary New England landscapes, unbelievable use of color. I don't think I'm speaking out of turn to say that Jean has been our most sought-after artist by our collectors year after year after year. Her nationwide reputation, her talent, and her unrelenting dedication to her work is inspiring. Please welcome artist Jean Jack.
Thank you all for being here, and I don't know what to say about my work right now. It's like I was driving here and I thought, am I coming or am I going? And it's just, I like doing the very stark paintings, and I also like doing the farmhouses and the grass. And
Can I ask you a few questions?
Sure.
All right. So can you tell us about the first farmhouse or barn that inspired you to paint?
Okay, it was in South Salem, New York.
Okay.
And I was driving this windy road, and on both sides of the road were these wonderful old houses, and actually it was part of an oil company. But the houses were all like little Cape-style houses, and I almost got into an accident because the road was so curvy. So I photographed them, and I came home and I painted them, and that really started me off doing houses.
That was the beginning. So and your paintings often have a sense of quiet and solitude. What draws you to these sort of beautiful, lonely, almost buildings and what do you hope that people will feel when they're viewing them?
It could be because I came from a family of 9 children.
They have a lot to do with it.
But it's just what I feel. It's just what I like to paint. It's my feel.
And lastly, so many of your paintings revisit the same houses or barns, but from different angles. There's a few that are up in the Blue Hill area in particular, right?
Yes, right.
Or they are done in different colors. So what keeps you coming back to that building over and over again?
Well, I think the problem is I don't like a lot of the buildings that I see. They have to inspire me, and you know, when I see one that I really love, I try to paint it like the red trees there, that farmhouse, which is in up in what's the name of the town? I can't think of it.
Brooklyn?
Yeah, Blue Hill, Brooklyn. And I've painted that farmhouse from the front, from the back, and all over in different colors, and there's just something about it that I really love. And every time I go back there and photograph it, nobody lives there, and it's getting older and older, and I don't think it's going to be around much longer.
It's going to be around forever. You've been painting it.
That's true.
So lastly, you've lived and painted in so many places, New York to Santa Fe to Maine. how has Maine's landscape influenced your recent work?
Oh,
Or
I-
even maybe before you even got here?
Well, because I grew up in Massachusetts, and we came to Maine, and I know Maine very well, and I also was in when I was in New Mexico, I was in a gallery in Maine, way up in Damariscotta. So I came here every now and then, but Maine is just fabulous. I mean, it just has everything an artist's dream.
Agreed. And it has everything that we could dream of here at the Portland Art Gallery as well. Well, thank you, Jean.
Okay.
And so she's here. Jean will be here to answer other questions as well. Thank you all for coming so much. We appreciate it. I forgot to mention, please subscribe to our Radio Maine podcast, where Dr. Lisa Belisle has interesting conversations with our artists and members of the community. Subscribe to our newsletter. And if you have any questions or are interested in purchasing anything, find me, myself, Kevin, Sean, Jess. We're happy to help. And it's the season opener for the Hearts of Pine on Sunday, just saying. Okay. All right, thanks, everybody.